Now, to kick off today's event, I'm going to turn it over to Mary O'Brien, the National Practice Director for Healthcare at Patina Solutions. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Jessica. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Patina Nation experts and all the other experts that are on this webinar today. Today, we're going to be discussing optimal project management practices within a multi-project environment. And while this is not just a healthcare industry subject, we in healthcare are certainly prone to giving staff multiple assignments on multiple committees and seeing less than optimal productivity and results. So this discussion is for us to learn from our speaker today about his research in multi-project environments and to present a tool to improve productivity and results. Our speaker, Jan Willem Tromp, is a global expert in multi-project management. He's a managing partner with a company in the Netherlands called Glow Management, which provides experts in multi-project management to organizations globally. He's a co-founder of the tool that he will present today, the web-based project management tool called Epicflow. Jan Willem has presented his research on multi-project management and Epicflow to the Project Management Institute. And today he will present a portion of that information to all of us, the Patina Nation experts. We are privileged to have Jan Willem here today with us. And at the end of this presentation, and there'll be a short question and answer period as well, we will provide more information to our Patina Nation experts about getting any additional information about the Epicflow product if you'd like to use it with any of your clients or introduce it to anyone. So with that, I will introduce Jan Willem Tromp.
And Jan, feel free to share your screen at this time.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. And we'll start the presentation. Is the presentation on the screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so let's start. How to reduce the complexity of multi-project environments and where to focus on. And as Mary already told, I'm co-owner of Epicflow and also a researcher. I'm doing my PhD research at this moment on this subject. Now, because I'm a PhD researcher, let's start. What is the academic perspective? And it's quite normal that you start with quotations from other scholars. Let's start with 2 of them. In a typical multi-project environment, the same people work simultaneously in several projects. The complexity of resource allocation is the main challenge. Now, this was the first article I read. It is from 2 Swedish people from Stockholm University. And this really, let's say, hit the fan, because this was a quite interesting article about multi-project environment. Here, the whole discussion started. I have another article. In a multi-project environment, the risk of project overload is huge, and its devastating effects are dramatic. Now, this article is really describing what is causing the effect of overload. What's happening? What is the effect with people? What does it do? Now, let me go into, let's say, what we define as multi-project, multi-teaming environment. Just imagine you have within your organization a portfolio management where you define which projects have to be done. You assign someone as being responsible, all those blocks are projects. He or she makes a plan, a project plan, and then he finds out that when he finds the resources, he has to share those resources among other projects. Now, this is what we call a multi-project environment. Now, why are we doing this? This is an article from Harvard Business Review, very interesting, a recent one from 2017, the overcommitted organization. Why are we doing this? We do this, a multi-project environment, because we want to have more efficiency in the company. With dedicated teams, not every member of the team has enough work. So this is why we do the multi-project, so that people work in more than one project at the same time. Secondly, very important, it's a good way to share knowledge among team members. If you have dedicated teams, it does not share the knowledge among the teams. So these are two valid arguments for doing this. But what do employees experience? They experience that it's constantly changing, it's dynamic, it's ambiguous, fragmented, and time pressured. Now, it makes multi-project work a challenge for the project professionals. So let's dive a little bit into this subject. I hope that everybody of you is familiar of the project management body of knowledge. We want to deliver our projects on time, within budget, and with the scope. Now, there's a problem with this project management body of knowledge. Let me try to explain what the problem is. Most organizations in project management try to do planning and control with a Gantt chart. So what they do is they plan every step that adds value towards the delivery. The problem is it's very deterministic. What do I mean by that? I mean that you have to say when the task is starting and when it should be finished. This determinism does not fit in a multi-project environment. And why? Because you do not know if the resources you need on that moment for this task is available and not still occupied in another project. Now, what we did is that we did a survey among all kinds of people, managers, project managers, C-level people in this area. And we asked them the question, in your situation, in your multi-project environment, what impacts on-time delivery? And here I show you 7 results of our survey. They told us quite often we have unrealistic planning. Secondly, we are in an environment of changing requirements from our clients or from internal people. Number 3, lacking resources. Not on the moment we created the plan, but on the moment the plan is in execution. On the moment we need the resources, they are not available. Number 4, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of dynamics. We call this Murphy. Number 5, I think it's very interesting. On the moment people get overloaded, they lose focus. And I think this is true. Number 6, underestimation. Estimate how big the tasks are is always a problem. We are lacking experience in this. And number 7, if people have too much work, they start multitasking. What do I mean by multitasking? They start with a task, do not finish it, jump over to another task, and then at the end they have to go back to the first task. Now, this multitasking is devastating for your productivity. So, let's have a look how companies are doing it currently, multi-projects. For every project, they create a Gantt chart, but they know they have to share the resources and they try to figure this out, the resource management, in an Excel sheet. When is Peter going to work for project A and when for project B and when does he go back to project 1? Now, we think this cannot work. Let me try to explain why. The problem with a Gantt chart is determinism, like I already told you. But if you look at the process flow and just imagine that you are in a process of a big new machine in your hospital, as an example. Of course, there's a sales process with supplier. There has to be done some pre-engineering, detail engineering. Then we have to purchase the parts. It has to be produced, assembled, and then you have the installation in your hospital. Now, the problem is the following. In the beginning, the uncertainty is really high in this engineering process. And where the uncertainty is high, the Gantt chart cannot work. It's too deterministic. So, you cannot plan start and end date of every task. Impossible. Especially not in a multi-project environment where your resources also have to work in other projects. Now, I'm now going to use this quote from Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Now, if I look at existing project management systems, like MS Project, like Primavera, Clarity, they try to solve the multi-project problem by creating one big Gantt chart out of all the individual Gantt charts. But this cannot work. This is like Albert Einstein is telling us. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking, because still it's determinism. So this was our challenge, and then we had to find within Epicflow the solution for this challenge. And what we did is the following. We created what we call the Epicflow body of knowledge. Now let me explain. Underneath you see the individual projects, and we say you need a layer over all these projects, over your whole portfolio. And the most important thing you have to do is protect your people against overload. Because on the moment people get overloaded, their productivity will drop down. But in order to protect your people against overload, you need to know your output. What is the amount of work the individuals can perform? Because if you don't know what their average output is, how can you protect them against overload? So these are two very important pillars of Epicflow. And last, number 3, you need to give a priority on task level, because people are working in more than one project. So they have several tasks on their desk. What is the priority of performing these tasks? Now, let me just give you an example how these 3 pillars of Epicflow body of knowledge are working. So this is from a customer. It's from an IT department within a hospital. And I show you the consequence of overload. There was a skill team and they all had the same skill. And I asked them, please tell me, what do you think your productivity is? And they told me, on average, our productivity is 80%. So when you have 5 people in a skill team with a productivity of 80%, you can say that the capacity is 4. I hope this is clear for you. So then I said, please give me all your projects and let's calculate in our system the workload. And in their situation, the workload was 11, almost triple the amount of the capacity. Just think, what do you think the output was in this situation? Was it equal to 4? Was it higher than 4, or was it less? Now, it came out that the output was only 2 man-hours per hour. This is the unit that we use as a measurement. So instead of the productivity is equal to 4, the output was only half, 2. So this was really a problem. So what I did with these numbers, I went to the manager, and the manager said, okay, I understand. Way too much workload. I will, by the way, it's feeling like this. The manager told me, I understand the problem. I have to reduce the workload. So what he did, he took out some projects out of the organization, put them in the refrigerator, and then reduced the workload. This was step number 1. Then I went to the team, the skill team, and I told them, hey guys, you told me that you thought your productivity was 80%, corresponding with a capacity of 4. But the end result, the output is only 2, which is comparable with 40%. And then they start talking. Yes, we have a lot of problems, and a lot of people are asking questions. Project managers are coming over to us to ask, what will you do? And when will you go start working with my task? All these things were happening. And don't forget the escalation meetings. So what we did was a test that we said, okay, try to focus on your task for at least 6 hours a day. So 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. And during that period, you are not allowed to be disturbed. So no email, no phone calls. And it was amazing. Within 3 weeks, they doubled the output. So there are 2 things. One, we reduced the workload. And the other thing we did is we made it possible that people could focus on their work. Now, I was flabbergasted by these results. They doubled the output within 2-3 weeks, which was amazing. And I was wondering, I had a question. Is the causality between workload and output, is this generic? And this was, let's say, the start of my PhD research, because I was really interested in this question. And in order to find out, we had to develop software which was helping us to collect this information. Now, let me show you how we are doing this. We call this the historical load graph. It's monitoring workload versus output over time. Now let me explain. You see a gray line, the gray line at level 40. This is the level of the assumed capacity, like the number 4 we had in the former example. The red line is showing you the development of the workload. It's high, then it goes a little bit down. So this is the red line. And the blue line is showing you the output. Now, what you see in the beginning, there was a huge difference between the workload, almost 45 man-hours per hour, and the output, only 20. So I said to this client, you have to reduce your workload because the difference between the two is way too high. You can increase your capacity, but that will not help you. And you see, after some time, we reduce the workload. We see the output is going up. And it really improved till this level. And then we made a mistake because we increased the workload again and the output is dropping. What we are trying to find out, where is the optimal balance between workload and output? And in the end over here, you see that the red line and the blue line are almost at the same level. Meaning the optimal output for this department, which was the support department, is almost 33, 34. This is the actual output. You can also say this is the actual capacity in your organization. It's not the level of the gray line because that was just an assumption. What we try to find out, what is the actual output and what is happening? And what is the causality between workload and output? So this was step number 1. Then we said, okay, now we have to protect people against overload. So we created the future load graph. And here we did something interesting. You see that we have over here the level 0. And the 0 level is the maximum load. Just assume that this is the level 33, 34 in the example I showed before. Meaning, if the graph of the future load is above the 0 level, meaning 4, is telling you you are lacking 4 people. You have a bottleneck. You are lacking 4 people for this period of time. If the line, the graph is going below 0, in this case -4, it's telling you 4 people will be idle over this period of time. And now we know upfront already where do we have bottlenecks and can we resolve these bottlenecks before it hits us. Very important. By the way, I forgot to tell you that the level 0 is also adapted with people who are going on holiday, are gone because they have a conference or whatever. So 0 is always 0. And in this example, you see that the blue one, which were the mechanical testers, had a bottleneck situation lacking 4 people. And the red line, the automation testers, had 4 people idle. Now I can tell you that in this case, automation testers can always help the manual testers. And this is basically what they did. One of the decisions made to solve this problem. Now, I have shown you how to protect against overload, and I have shown you the way how to find what is the optimal output. What is the kind of information we need to make these calculations? And this is very simple. The required minimum data. First of all, we want you to plan every different step that adds value towards the delivery. I think you're already doing this. Let me explain. Every green box is a task. And tasks have dependencies. For instance, this task can only start when the first task is ready. Here we have a task which can be done in parallel with no dependencies. And at the end of the network, we have a diamond which is representing the milestone. Now, what is the kind of information we need at the minimum? For every task, I want to know what is the resource group needed to perform this task. You can also say, what is the skill needed to perform this task? That's one requirement. The second one is, I want to have a rough work estimate of each task. What do I mean? I want to know how many man-hours you think you need to perform this task. And very important, I do not need to know the start and end date of a task because that's Gantt chart thinking. And you remember, that's too deterministic. So we ignore start and end dates of tasks, but I need to know the delivery date of the milestone. Now, when I have this kind of information, task with a network, skill groups, and man hours estimate, and I have the due date of the milestone, then I have all the information to create these two graphs. Okay, now I have explained two pillars of the Epicflow body of knowledge. There is one left, and this is the right priorities. Now, let's do an exercise. I have here an example of 3 projects, project 1, 2, and 3. Project 1 has 4 tasks, A, B, C, and D. The letters are corresponding with the resource. And from resource B, I only have 1 person available like the others. If you look at the numbers here, it represents the estimation, 100, 600, 101. And at the end, the diamond is representing the milestone. After 1600 hours, this project should be finished. And the length of this arrow is showing you the buffer time of this project. Project 2 has 3 small tasks, a very small buffer, and then has to be delivered after 600 hours. And project 3, also 3 tasks, a little bit bigger, and has to be finished after 1700 hours. Now, just assume you are resource A. In what sequence would you perform those 3 tasks, which are already lying on your desk? So just think 10 seconds, use your intuition. In what sequence would you perform those 3 tasks on your desk? You are resource A. Now, I hope you all made your decision, and below here you have some examples of what to do. A is telling you I start with project 1, then 3, and then 2, and B is 3, 2, 1, etc. I can tell you, out of the 1,000 meetings I already had and playing this game, 95% chooses C, either D, meaning they start with project 2. Now let's find out what is the consequence of this decision. So there's a lady C, and is telling us, let's start with the project that has the closest due date, which is project 2. And then after that, project 1. See what is happening. What we see is that resource D has no chance to deliver project 3 on time because he's able to start way too late. So he will probably blame resource B for delivering her task too late to resource D. And he is lacking 200 hours, 1900 instead of the 1700. So this is the consequence of starting with project 2 and then project 1. Let's change 1 and 3. So we start with project 2 and then start with project 3. Just have a look at the difference. It's amazing. A much better result just by changing the sequence of resource A. Now, still not good enough. We're still lacking 100 hours. Let's start with project 1. Still not good enough. Now let's change project 2 and 3. Look what is happening. Has no effect on project 3, but you create a little bit of buffer, extra buffer for project 2. Now let's start with project 3. And what do we see? That just by changing the sequence of resource A, now all projects are delivered on time. We gained 20% speed, which is an amazing result. Now this, I just want to show you the effect of the sequence of just one resource that is working in 3 different projects. Now, this looks easy, isn't it? But if you have 3 tasks on your desk, you have 6 different possibilities of sequencing these tasks. Be aware, if you have 4 tasks on your desk, you already have 24 different possibilities. It's faculty, it's for faculty. Now, do you have colleagues, or do you have at this moment 10 tasks of your desk, on your desk to perform? Be aware that in that case, you have 3.6 million different sequencing possibilities. I can tell you there's only one conclusion. A human being is not able to prioritize between tasks that are part of several networks of projects. You need an algorithm. And I can tell you this, I have done my presentation at the World Conference PMI in the Netherlands, and I invited 8 professors, which were professors in the project management area. They all made the same mistake in the game we just played. They all started with project 2. And when I showed them this graph, a human being is not able to prioritize, they told me, you really have proven that a human being is not able to prioritize. So you need an algorithm. Now, guess what? We at Epicflow developed an algorithm which is extremely fast because your environment is changing all the time, and which is good enough because there is no optimal algorithm. So let's summarize the Epicflow body of knowledge. I have shown you. First, you have to protect against overload. Really very important. And we do this with the future load graph. In order to do this, you have to establish the 0 level, you remember. You need to know your output. And this is what we do with the historical load graph. And then we find out what is the optimal output, where is the optimal balance between workload and output. And number 3, we have now the priorities on tasks. Now, with these algorithms available, then we said, how can we do quick research about the question, is there causality between workload and output? And what is the effect if you manage this well? So what we did is the following. We were looking for an opportunity for a quick win. So what we did, we created an interface with your existing project management system. You can also do the standalone, but it was important to make this interface. Why? It was by using an interface between, for instance, MS Project, Oracle, or Jira. By using it, we took the data from your current system, we interfaced to Epicflow, we made our calculations and just provided the information of what is the pipeline of project, what is the priority list, what's the dashboard information, the graphs, and resource management, what's happening, in order to prevent for bottlenecks and ensure that projects are finished on time. What we also did, if something is changed over here, it is immediately synchronized to Epicflow. If something is changed in Epicflow, for instance, progress report, it is synchronized to, let's say, MS Project. Now, in this way, the companies could still use their current project management system, which is not a multi-project management system, and by that, connecting it to Epicflow, which is the multi-project management system. Now, because we could do this, we could really research the impact very fast. Let me show you the result of the causality between workload and output. This was the question I started with. After 40 implementations in real situations, the generic rules we found are the following. First, if the resource is overloaded, the output drops after a short period of time. And the output drops dramatically, I can tell you. Number 2, if the overload situation disappears, it takes some time before the output will go up. And this is a very logical explanation. If you are overloaded for a few weeks and the load is dropping down and you are, let's say, not overloaded anymore, you need time to recover. Quite normal, we are human beings. Now just think, what was the effect on productivity during our research after the 40 implementations? The magnitude is between 30% and 200% output increase in productivity. I was flabbergasted by these results, but this meant that in the situation before Epicflow, with their project management system, they were not aware that they had an overload situation. And after killing this overload situation, protect the people against overload, the people were able to increase their productivity, increase their output. And these are the results, between 30 and 200%. Now, what are the learnings of our research? Overloading resources is double stupid. It kills productivity, like I showed you, and it also delays projects, like we saw in the game. A human being is not able to prioritize between tasks that are part of several networks of projects, like we have proven. Number 3, this is a new one, I have to explain. If you have more than one bottleneck, you have ignored the real one. Be aware of this. if you have more than one bottleneck. What is happening when you have one bottleneck? The flow of work is delaying, and the resources downstream have to wait for the material and the information to do their part of the project. But during this waiting time, the effect is that on the moment they get the information too late, they have less time to perform their tasks. So you are creating a bottleneck, a second one and a third one. So be aware, if you have more than one bottleneck, you have ignored the real one. How to find the real bottleneck? Most times it's upstream in your project network. Number 4, quite interesting. Planned work is not the problem. It's the unplanned work that creates overload and delays. Now let me explain. I have seen a lot of portfolio management systems, and they tell us, no, we have planned everything and we have enough resources, no problem at all. We should perform all projects on time. But there's also a part which is called unplanned work. Now what I did is I'm asking organizations, what do you think is the amount of planned work versus unplanned work? Now I can tell you, in Western Europe, the amount of unplanned work is at this moment on the level between 40 and 50%, which is huge. There are 2 types of unplanned work, excuse me. One is you just forgot to plan. Now this is easy. Just plan it and then this problem is solved. The other part of the unplanned work is the dynamics of your organization. Things are popping up. You have to solve it immediately, or let's say within a few days. So you have to be aware how to, let's say, protect your organization for the overload caused by unplanned work. Therefore, you need some buffer in your capacity. Okay, this is, let's say, the research part. Now I'm going to an example of a hospital in the Netherlands, which is one of our clients. And Stef Mensel is the CIO of this hospital and responsible for, let's say, facility management. And he tells us that the impact of Epicflow on business performance, with Epicflow, we can deliver more projects by working at full capacity. This is what I find especially helpful in our case. So he found a way to find out where are the bottlenecks, where is the idleness, and just combine those 2, and now he is working at full capacity. So see how much capacity we need to undertake new projects, forecast the backlog and make information available, and show the effect of implementing and starting a project. So he can do portfolio management, decide what to do and when to start, and he can do multi-project management in the execution phase. Now, what did we do in the hospitals from our clients at this moment? We only focus on facility management, not on the cure part. Now, first example is MRO, which is maintenance, repair, and overhaul on buildings. I think this is clear. The other one is maintenance, repair, and overhaul on equipment. There's a lot of equipment in the hospital. Just think of all the medical equipment, which has to be checked and calibrated. Number 3, implementation of new software, hot issue, especially in the Netherlands. Number 4, information technology service management, which is collecting all the questions about the IT systems and the help desk and try to solve all these issues. Number 5, planning the financial processes. I like invoicing and like, let's say, the yearly reports, etc. Number 6, IT support, planning and control. So this is what we are doing in the hospitals. And together with these hospitals, we developed Epicflow and have now a proven solution. I would like to have this also, I would like to be able also to help, let's say, the hospitals or the healthcare in the United States. So I am at the end of my presentation. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thanks, Jan Willem. Great presentation and great clarity in that. We do have a couple of questions here from the folks that are listening, and I'm guessing they are from people who have been in situations where there are lots of projects and they've been in the situations that you have just described. So one of the questions is, you have very nicely described how by reducing the workload, you can dramatically increase the output. So in your consulting with your clients, how do you convince the executives, or how do you convince executives to decrease the workload or pick the workload that should be done later?
Yeah. Oh, this is a great question. I love it. What I try to convince, let's say, C-level people to do the following. If they have the feeling that their people are overloaded but do not know the effect, I tell them, let's do an experiment. Let's just reduce the amount of running projects for 2 or 3 weeks. So just freeze them for 2 or 3 weeks. And then let's see what happens with the output. And normally in this situation, you see that after a week, the output is going up very fast. And why? Because just as an example, people have to work in 10 projects, and then you freeze, let's say, 5 projects for 2 or 3 weeks. And then you only have to work for 5 projects. Less workload, less changes between projects and context and all this kind of stuff. And then just monitor what is happening. This is always a success. And that convinces, especially C-level people, okay, now we understand the causality between workload and output. Is this clear?
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that answer. So probably an addendum to that question is, when you're talking about prioritizing workload or prioritizing tasks, you know, in a hospital situation, in any organization, there's all sorts of politics that gets in the way of whose project goes first, whose tasks go first. Talk to us a little bit about how you educate your clients around doing that, and then how the Epicflow tool helps to solve that problem.
Yeah. Okay. There are 2 parts of the question. First of all, you have to prioritize which projects are we going to do. This is more portfolio management. You have to decide what is important for our organization, which projects. This is politics. I think we can agree on that.
Yes.
If you do this, the only thing we are doing with Epicflow is, please give me the estimations of resources needed, make a basic plan. I'm not talking about a detailed plan, but a high-level plan, so we can check the resources needed, and we can check, are there bottlenecks coming up in the future? That's the first thing. And then you can juggle with the projects, which is political. But on the moment the board has decided we are going to do these 5 projects in this sequence, then everybody starts with the projects, and then we are using the priority on task. This is interesting because first we make sure that we have enough capacity, let's say on planned level, but during the moment of execution, there is no difference anymore in the priority on projects, because we already decided what is the first project to start, what's the second, the third, and the fourth. So that this politics is already gone. And then the algorithm takes over, because this algorithm is based on the estimations of the task and always compared to the pressure, how much work do I have till the first milestone? And this is an automatic process. So the highest priority project gets automatically the resources first. I hope this is clear, because there's one thing very important. Do not change manually the priority of tasks, because I have proven nobody can do this. So just discuss which is the priority of projects, and do not discuss which is the priority of tasks, because this is an automated process.
Okay.
I have to convince the management team for that.
Yes, I imagine
which is not easy. One small remark. I know project managers who are responsible for one project who still try to interfere this process during execution. And you should, as a board, not allow it.
Yes. Having been a CEO of a hospital system myself, Jan Willem, I can empathize with the executives who have a hard time reducing workload, but you're convincing me, so thank you.
Okay.
Here's another project. I'm sorry, another question. I think you answered this in the end, but there are a lot of project management software out there. Do organizations replace their software with Epicflow, or is it an addendum, or how do they work together?
Yeah, yeah. In the beginning of our research, we started as an addendum. And so let's say an overlay over the current project management system, because then we could start very fast with the data which was already available in the project management systems of the client, which was great. It was not a disinvestment. They didn't have to change a lot. And they only used, let's say, the Epicflow body of knowledge as an overlay of their project management system. In the last 2 years, it changed. New customers who were not satisfied with their current systems decided to say, okay, just give me Epicflow, I will remove the current project management system. That was one way of working. And we have customers who said, look, I have now worked with this project management system for years in combination with Epicflow, but Epicflow has all the functionality needed, so I don't need this separate project management systems anymore. So we have different kind of customers. It's not up to me. I have no opinion about it. I leave it up to the customers where he feels himself comfortable with.
Okay, thank you. Here's a question from one of our experts on the webinar today. Does Epicflow address other complexities, such as a task restraint of project 2 dependent on the completion of project 1?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Yes, it does. We are able to make connections between, we are making to create relations, dependencies between projects on task level. So it can happen that if you have a program of several projects, that there are some interdependencies. And we make this possible in Epicflow. So even you have created in MS Project the individual project files, in Epicflow you can create interdependencies, which is quite normal because this happens quite often. Yeah, we can.
Excellent. And another question, and I'm not sure I can explain this to you, Jan Willem, but hopefully you know what this is. The question is, have you considered using Little's law to explain this?
Yeah, it's funny. I have a business partner in. Oh, now I have to get back in my memory. I have a business partner in Germany, and he told me Little's law, and it's too long ago. I would like to answer this question, but I need more time.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and we have the opportunity to do that and get back to the people.
Yeah, but the question is interesting. I remember that. But
Yeah.
I have to dive in. Yeah.
Okay, we'll dive in and get the answer back as well. So those are all of our questions from our audience. Jan Willem, thank you very much. We want to continue to make sure that the people in the webinar and then all of the people who are going to listen to the recording of this webinar understand how they can get further information about Epicflow and understand how they might be able to partner with you on either their own work or introducing it to a client, or even just learning more about Epicflow and the research that brought it to bear. So how exactly will people understand how will they get that information?
Yeah, I'm fascinated about the subject, and I hope that with what we developed as a proven solution can bring to the US together with you, Mary. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So this concludes today's presentation. You'll receive a post-event survey in your email about 15 minutes after the event ends. To find out more about Patina Nation's events and offerings, you can visit our website at patinanation.com, or the site that's at the bottom of your screen is a web page to learn more about how to partner with Epicflow and maybe make some introductions or figure out ways to work together with that organization. You'll also receive that link in the post-event email. So if you're not able to jot it down right now, you'll be able to have that in your inbox. And I think that concludes today. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Mary. And I hope you all have a great day.
This has been a presentation of the Patina Nation. To watch more content like this or for more information, please visit us online at www.patinanation.com.